Are you a veteran and you have lots of questions about the VA home loan and you don't even know if you qualify for a VA home loan and you're just wondering what that looks like as far as benefits, what's in it for you? Well, this video is definitely for you because we are going to do a deep dive on all the ins and outs of a VA loan. My name is Amy DeBusk, and I am a certified mortgage planner and I specialize in VA loans. First and foremost, I want to thank you for your service and tell you I am so thankful for my freedom and for you serving in our country. That is what I hold. Probably one of the most valuable things that I hold to my heart is my freedom. And I definitely give all the servicemen and women out there credit for that. So let's dive into whether or not you qualify for a VA loan. So, basic eligibility for a VA loan, you have to be in active duty during non wartime for a minimum of 181 days. If you were in active duty for war during wartime, it would be a minimum of 90 days. There are a couple of caveats with those rules, and the best way is to just check to see if you're eligible through the VA eligibility website or contact somebody like me who can check for you. The other way to be eligible for a VA loan is to be a reservist. So if you were in the reserves for a minimum of 6 years, you would qualify for a VA home loan. So that's in a nutshell who's eligible. Now, let's talk about all the benefits of the VA home loan. So, throw out any myth or any old like information that you may have gotten from family or friends or realtors in the past that says a VA loan is hard to do, a VA loan is hard to get, a VA loan is hard to use because all that is so untrue. There are so many benefits to being a veteran and using your VA benefits for buying a house. I tell all my veterans this really is the best loan product that I have to offer. Because first and foremost, you can buy a house for zero down, 100% financing. And at Amy DeBusk Home Loans, powered by American Pacific Mortgage, we can also get you a seller credit to cover all the closing costs. So essentially, you'll get this house for no money out of pocket. Now, um, that's number 1, so 0 down. And then number 2 is there's no private mortgage insurance. So typically when you buy a house on any other type of loan, like a conventional loan or a USDA loan or an FHA loan, and you put less than 20% down, you're gonna pay this extra monthly payment called private mortgage insurance. And VA does not have that. So that is another huge benefit. The other benefit is that when you buy a home with a VA loan, there are a lot of checks and balances that happen with the appraisal and extra inspections to ensure that you're getting a house that is well built and in good condition. Everything that the VA loan stands for is in the name of the veteran and doing it for you, making sure that you're taken care of. Now, there are some really cool benefits to getting a VA loan where it's easier to qualify for a VA loan versus other loans like a FHA or a conventional loan. For example, did you know that you can qualify for a VA loan after only 1 year out of bankruptcy? So let's say you got into a bankruptcy and you filed a Chapter 13. As long as you've been in the Chapter 13 bankruptcy paying those payments for 1 year, we can get you qualified for a VA loan. We have to go through a certain avenue to do that. And I had a really close family member several years ago who I was able to help. It was so exciting. This person did not think that they could qualify for a house. And I had, at the time, I had some extra time on my hands. I wasn't that busy. And I was like, I'm just going to look into this VA loan for them. And I called them up and I'm like, hey, guess what? You're pre approved. They were so shocked. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, we're able to go to the trustee for the bankruptcy and make a request and say, hey, we want to, get this home loan. It's going to be in lieu of rents. This person has paid their bankruptcy on time for the last 12 months. And lo and behold, this person got qualified. They bought a house. And since then, they have bought two other houses. And it all started with that house back in like 2015, and they ended up getting over $100,000 in equity in that house and then buying another house with the $100,000 in equity. So that was my success story for somebody who has a bankruptcy who is also a veteran. So, um, and with the benefits of the VA loan, you can qualify for a larger purchase price on a VA loan than on other loans. So the criteria for how much we can lend you is larger on a VA loan than it is, say, on an FHA loan or a conventional loan. Also, the interest rates are the lowest, absolute lowest on a VA loan versus an FHA loan or a conventional loan. Typically, a VA interest rate is going to be at least a half a point lower than the going conventional rate and a quarter point lower on the a quarter point lower than an FHA loan. Now, I want to say this uh, um, also, the credit score requirement to get a low interest rate is not as strict. So let's say you have a 680 credit score, you're going to get the same interest rate as somebody with, say, a 780 credit score. So the interest rates overall on a VA loan are just lower and the lowest out of any other loan program that's out there. So huge benefit because the lower your interest rate, the more you can qualify for on a purchase price, and the lower your payment will be. Now, I want to dive into the funding fee. Now, there is a funding fee on a VA loan, which is not like any other loan, but you can think of it in lieu of private mortgage insurance. So, the funding fee is a fee that is tacked on to the back of the loan and it's financed. So, you don't have to pay for it up front. Again, this is a 100% financing loan, but the funding fee is a fee that goes to the VA and it helps support the program. That's what the fee goes towards. And so if you are 100% disabled, you would be exempt from the VA funding fee. Actually, if you're disabled, that there are certain percentages that might lower percentages where you may qualify to be exempt from the funding fee. If you're using your VA benefits for the first time, you're only going to pay 2.15% of the loan amount for the funding fee. Again, that's tacked onto the back of the loan and financed. If you're using subsequent use, so let's say you bought a house, you sold it, this is your second time using your VA benefits for a home loan, then the fee does go up to 3.3%. Now, if this is a trade secret that not a lot of people know about, if you are willing to put money down, let's say you have money to put down 5% or 10%, if you put between 5 and 10% down, your VA funding fee drops to 1.5%. So that's a huge savings and it can help you qualify for more of a purchase price because you're financing less. Now, if you are doing a refinance on a VA loan, it's called an EARL, a rate reduction loan. then the funding fee is only a half a point. So again, it's also tacked on to the back of the loan. So that in a nutshell is what the funding fee is and how much it costs to you. Now, I mentioned earlier that we can get you what is called a seller credit to cover all your closing costs so that essentially you won't have any money out of pocket. Now, how it all works is okay, real talk. When you go to make that offer on your house, let's say you're buying a house for $500,000, you are going to need to come up with the 1% earnest money deposit that will sit at the title company while we're processing your loan. But at the very end, when we go to fund your loan and the seller credit comes into play, when the seller credit covers all your closing costs, you potentially could get that $5,000 back if the seller credit covers 100% of your closing costs. Recently, I did a VA loan for a first time homebuyer veteran who was able to get a seller credit to cover his entire closing cost amount. And so we were able to it was just exactly that. The purchase price was 495,000. He's buying in Roseville, California, and his earnest money deposit was $4,900, and he got every penny back. So that was super exciting. So 4% is the max you can get on a seller credit for a VA loan. So it's 4% of the purchase price. Now, this is another trade secret that not a lot of loan officers know about. Um, if the veteran, let's say you have debt that needs to be paid off to qualify. Let's say you have a credit card. Maybe the credit card is $5,000. Some of that seller credit can go towards paying off your debt to help you qualify. So let's say the purchase price is 500,000, you're getting 4%, which is $20,000, and the closing costs are 15,000 and you have $5,000 left over. That 5,000 can go to pay off your debt. That's a huge win for you as the veteran and as a new home buyer, getting that debt paid off so that your overall debts are lower. And there is no other loan like this that allows for a seller to pay off debt except for the VA loan. There is an additional income qualification that is required on all VA loans that you probably have never heard about, and it's called residual income. So we have to do what's called a test to make sure that you have enough residual income to cover incidentals like the electric bill, other house expenses. And there's a sliding scale depending on where you live, how much the mortgage is, and what what the purchase price is, the overall mortgage payment that we have to test. It's an actual calculation. We plug it in. It's a complicated calculator, but we need to make sure that you pass that residual income test in addition to the max debt to income ratio. So typically on a VA loan, the maximum debt to income ratio that they'll allow you to have is 55% of your total debts compared to your income. So if your income is $10,000, your total debts cannot exceed $5,500. So that's one way we qualify you. But then, in addition to that, another way we qualify you on top of that is to make sure you have enough residual income to pay for all the incidentals for the house, such as your electric bill. Now, let's talk about the appraisal and what the minimum requirements are for a home to qualify for a VA loan. Now, this is the part where there are some stricter guidelines for a condition of a home to pass what we call a VA appraisal. So the VA has their own VA appraisal department. VA appraisers are a different animal. They have a whole nother set of guidelines that they follow, and they're trained to evaluate the house in the eyes of the VA, and making sure that the house is in reasonable condition, starting with the roof. The roof needs to be in reasonable condition. There can be no peeling paint or any siding issues with the siding on the house. Um no missing railings, no deck that's falling apart, no broken stairs on the outside. The interior of the house needs to be solid and what we call no health and safety issues whatsoever. There has to be a working heater and air conditioning unit. There has to be a stove in the kitchen. It has to be able to work. So definitely the appraisal is on the stricter side when you're comparing different types of loan products. I would say this though, most homes that you're going to be looking at are going to qualify. And even if they don't, I have such good track records with r- listing agents, realtors, and sellers that want to do right by the veteran. And we've had so many escrows where the sellers have paid to have things repaired so that the veteran could buy the house with a VA loan. So I wouldn't let you, don't get hung up on that. Don't think about that. Just know that you're not gonna go buy a fixer upper with a VA loan. Okay, and then let's dive into the pest inspection and the pest work that needs to be done. This is another huge myth around a VA loan and why a lot of listings say on the multiple listing advertisement that there are no VA loans allowed is because of the pretense that they believe that there is going to be needing a pest clearance. So there is a form that you can offer in lieu of a pest clearance. So let me clarify. The name of the form that you're going to want to remember is called the NPMA 33 form, that states there is no wood destroying pests visible on the house. So this is a form that a pest company can go and they'll definitely do the inspection, but then on this form, this NPMA 33 form, they're going to say that there is no visible wood destroying pests on the house. And that is going to replace a pest clearance. The key with this is that you need to have this form filled out and done prior to going into underwriting. If you submit that with your underwriting and it doesn't say on your contract that you're going to be requiring a pest inspection, this will satisfy the underwriting condition. And there are so many VA lenders out there, or VA mortgage officers out there that don't know this. So definitely, if you're not using me, which I hope you do, but if you for some reason are using a different VA lender, definitely remember that form and make sure that your mortgage advisor knows this form and knows that you can use this, because that really will open up a lot of doors for you, no pun intended, for homes that you could buy that where potentially maybe a seller would be not wanting to sell to a veteran because they're worried that they have lots of pest work to be done, or they just don't want to go through the hassle of having that pest inspection done, and maybe them having to lose out on some of their profit if they have to do repairs. But this NP 34 form is going to solve all those issues for you with the seller in that respect. I would like to note, though, on the NPMA 33 form, if there are visible signs of infestation or pest work that clearly needs to be done, an appraiser can supersede that form and require a full-blown pest report to be issued. So you need to be cautious of that. This form can only be used when house is in good condition and there is no visible signs of any pest work to be done. Let's talk about the closing costs. You probably heard me say earlier that I was giving an example. I was saying could be like $15,000 in closing costs, and you were probably like, whoa, wow, that's a lot. So, the closing costs, what is entailed in the closing costs in the VA loan? You're going to have lender fees, and part of those lender fees could be a rate buy down. So when you are looking at what interest rate to pick, you could spend additional money to buy the interest rate down, and that would be a part of the lender fees. Now, I will say this at Amy DeBusk Home Loans, we offer reduced processing fees and reduced underwriting fees for our veterans. Most lenders I have found do offer a reduced fee for the veteran. So that's really nice. And then there's going to be title and escrow fees. And then there's going to be prepaid items for your homeowner's insurance and your property taxes. And then the VA funding fee. So the VA funding fee is financed, but it is considered a portion of your closing costs. So all those fees together are on a sliding scale, and it depends on your purchase price. Also depends on whether or not you buy the interest rate down or not. And then depends on what title company is handling your purchase transaction. But those are all of the closing costs that you could incur on a VA loan. Now let's talk about inspections. So even if you decide to go with the non-wood destroying NPMA 33 form and you don't get a full blown pest clearance, you can still go out and have a pest inspection done. We just won't show that to the underwriter. Another inspection that you could get done. Oh, and just to back up on the pest inspection, typically it's $99 for a pest inspection, and you pay that directly to the pest company. Another inspection you might go out and do is you might do a roof inspection. Typically, the roof doctors charge about $150 for a roof inspection. So that might be an extra check and balance that you want to do on the house before you buy it. If there's a chimney, you'll definitely want to get a chimney inspection. So after you get into contract on a house, then you get to kind of get underneath the hood of the car, so to speak, or underneath the house. And then you'll always want to do a home inspection. That's when we really recommend. So a home inspector is different than an appraiser. A home inspector is gonna crawl underneath the house, make sure that the house is in good working order, and then they'll give you a laundry list of things that could go wrong on the house or that will need repair, and the life of every item on that house is very informative document that they give you. And typically that home inspection is going to cost you about $350, and again you'll pay that directly to the home inspector. Home inspection is not required by the lender. Pest inspection, if depending on the condition of the house, may be required, and a pest clearance may be required if the NPMA 33 form cannot be satisfactory due to the condition of the house. But a roof inspection, a chimney inspection, those are not required inspections. Those would just be things that you would get in addition to if you were really concerned about those items on the house that you were going to buy. So there you have it. Those are pretty much all of the closing costs that you could incur. And the great news is that on a VA loan, you can get up to a 4% seller credit to cover most or all of your closing costs. Another reason why Maybe in the past you've heard a rumor that says why VA loans are bad or it's hard to get your offer accepted is because they take forever. And I want to say that that is definitely not true, especially with my team and I. We can close a VA loan in less than 25 days. Why the VA loan takes a little bit longer is because the VA appraiser, remember I said they're a little bit of a different animal. They by the rules, they have up to 10 business days. That's right. Business days to get the VA appraisal report back to the VA. So that can take a little bit of time. 10 business days is usually 2 solid weeks. However, with proper planning and with the right team in place, you can absolutely get your VA home loan closed in under 30 days. Now, that is, of course, a lot of sellers want a shorter escrow. Not always. Sometimes sellers need longer because they're moving too. However, that's not something that you have to be concerned about, that the VA loan takes forever because it definitely does not. Now, let's talk about you're ready to get pre approved for your VA loan and what are going to be the document requirements. So you're going to have to provide your DD 214, so we can prove that what your VA eligibility is. And a lot of times nowadays, with all the back end platforms that we have, with all the platforms we have tied to the VA, we can actually look that up for you. Even without your DD 214. But just be prepared. That might be one of the documents that you're going to need to provide so we can go out and get your VA eligibility. And then you're going to get a copy of your ID, valid driver's license, passport, military ID. And then if you're a salaried employee or a W-2 employee, you're going to need your most recent pay stub for the last 30 days, your W-2, and then you're going to need 2 years tax returns as well, just from the federal. And then if we are requiring you to bring in money to the close of escrow, we'll need bank statements. And sometimes, even if we're not requiring you to bring in any money for closing costs or whatever, we may need what we call reserves to help strengthen your file. So just be prepared to show 2 months bank statements and show your savings and your checking, or maybe some even retirement for reserves. That in a nutshell. Oh, if you're self-employed, it's just a regular 2 years full tax returns. So this is a full documented loan. So you're going to have to, we require income documentation for a VA loan. And typically, from start to finish, from the time we take your application and collect your documentation, we can get you pre approved and out there shopping within 24 to 48 hours. Just depends on how long it takes you to get your documents back to us. So, if you are thinking that you would like to apply for a VA loan, I would love to be that person that helps you. You can log on to talkingwithamy.com. That's talkingwithamy.com, and book your free 30-minute discovery call. And that's where it all starts.